The next couple weeks are crucial in shaping Canadian history. After 10 years in power, Justin Trudeau stepped down as Prime Minister following immense pressure from the opposition and from members of his own party. In the weeks prior to his resignation, it seemed inevitable that a Conservative government led by Pierre Poilievre would form a majority government to replace him. But in what seems like an instant, things have changed. Trump threatened Canada's sovereignty and economy with tariffs, Mark Carney was elected new Liberal leader, and Poilievre's campaign fell flat a month away from Election Day. As of April 6th, the latest polls are projecting that Liberals would win an election today, securing a majority government. Muslims across the country have a decision to make. We are still watching a genocide unfold in Gaza. For months, we've been emailing, calling, and meeting with our MPs so they can do something to stop it. Some of them have stepped up to the plate, but many have not, and now is the time to hold them accountable for their actions. Coast to coast, we have the numbers and the resources to do it. Organizations like NCCM, CM-PAC, and Hikma are working hard to provide Muslims with the resources they need to make an informed decision. Joining me today to discuss this topic is Mohammed Rouda. Mohammed is the Director of Advocacy for Hikma Public Affairs Council, a local public affairs group that focuses on combating Islamophobia. Mohammed has previously worked as a humanitarian and political affairs advisor at the Palestinian Mission to the UN in New York. He completed his bachelor's degree, double majoring in accounting and international relations, and double minoring in refugee and migrant studies and transitional justice. He also completed his master's degree in political science. His master's research was focused on the role of the UN specialized agencies in the protection of civilians in armed conflict. Mohammed is also the first repeat guest of the Caretakers podcast. Welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you.
This next couple of weeks, like I mentioned, is crucial.
Yeah.
I want you to start by talking about just how important this election is.
Yeah. So honestly, like the first thing that we can just immediately turn our eyes into is the United States. And we saw how crucial that election was. For the most part, many of the people that were unhappy with the Biden administration ended up voting actually for Trump or voted for a third party. And unfortunately, that actually did not pay off. We see the crackdown on individuals who spoke for human rights. We saw the crackdown on organizations that, apart from Palestine and even Muslim causes, but just organizations such as USAID that were responsible, for example, for delivering humanitarian aid in the global south. All of that ended up being kind of shattered under Trump's administration. We see the students that are being kind of ran after by government officials, trying to detain them, deport them, all of that. So ramifications in that election should be kind of our guide into how important this election is for us here in Canada. Over the past couple of months, actually, since October 2023, we've seen how university students have tried stepping up, and universities ended up creating policies that targeted those students, even here at Western. We've seen organizations that started removing their diversity and equity and inclusion initiatives, and all of that actually has an effect on us, and that's all coming just directly from the United States. For us, we've seen the language that's used by politicians and how harmful that language can be. Here in London specifically, we saw how language can get translated into actions with our London family. And ever since October 2023, we've seen an astronomical rise in Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian racism, things that the public might actually not be aware of. We get reports almost on a daily basis by community members informing us of hate crimes that they have faced, issues that they have faced in schools, even in their own homes. One community member actually was building a new home and walked downstairs for the inspection right before closing and found hateful messages written on
Wow, I didn't know about
on
that.
the framing. So
Alhamdulillah.
those are all things that we see on a daily basis, and the ramifications of this election are honestly, like, we cannot even start to describe it. It basically boils down to a couple of things: free speech, our rights to exist as a community, how protected we feel within our own communities, the basic services that we receive, religious freedom and the institutions, everything that we basically call as part of our community, and foreign policy, obviously.
Hmm.
So everything is at play here, and everything will have consequences during this election.
Yeah. So I want to respectfully push back on something you said.
Yeah,
That's very early on.
yeah,
You said that the vote for third party, or for Trump in this case,
mhm,
in the US hasn't paid off.
yeah,
I think there's a word missing from that. I think it hasn't paid off yet.
yeah, yeah.
I'm still holding out hope that the more authoritarian the government gets in the US, the more extreme they get in their policies,
Yeah.
the more it exposes and makes people aware of the kind of things that we're combating.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And that's not a criticism of voting for a third party.
Hmm.
Um, I think that in this case, at least for us in Canada, um, the U.S. is not. It's the people who voted for Jill Stein out of principles, and it's people that we should all kind of follow the guidance of. To be honest, I do think it's remarkable, and to get those numbers during a close election, or what we thought would be a close election, I mean, in theory, is great.
Hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, it's a couple of things. We noticed that our community members, whenever it comes to voting, they actually don't vote. Out of, for example, there are a number of different factors. There is the idea of fear. There is the idea of something being too comfortable. If you're comfortable in something, that's it. Like, why would you even vote? There is sometimes you just wait for the next person to vote. The idea that your vote
Somebody else
doesn't
will do
matter.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. So until we have the numbers to influence it fully, and again, I would love for us to go and vote for a third party that's principled, a third party that represents us. And again, politics was not made to be contained within two parties. But the way that it's framed is that we have the numbers, we just don't have the drive to go and change certain things.
Hmm.
In Canada specifically, we're a parliamentary democracy, and we're faced with a couple of options. To be honest, we have a majority government that does not answer to anyone. We have a minority government that can be held accountable, as we have seen. Um, and we have multiple parties. It's not just three. It's not just two. We have the Conservative, the Liberals, the NDP, the Bloc, the Greens, and the random individual parties. So, with that being said, in Canada, we are lucky to have a lot more options than the US. The US is, you vote for a president, you get a ballot, you vote for a president, you vote for your senator and your congressperson, and that's it. You're done. Over here, we vote for an MP, and we actually get to choose who we want that MP to be, based on what we value. Doesn't matter who the leader is. At the end of the day, he's the leader of the party. They have certain lines that they need to adhere to as MPs, but at the end of the day, we can only elect the people who are best for our own communities.
Okay. That's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
So Hekma has come up with recommendations for each of the ridings here in London. So you've already came out with 3 recommendations, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And 2 more are coming for the, I guess, most southern part of the city and the northern part of the city. You sort of
Yeah.
started with the middle group. So I want you to talk to people a little bit about how you came up with those recommendations.
Yeah. I mean, let's start with London West, and that's where Minister Kayabaga is running. First of all, I know Ariel, and I've known Ariel since 2021 when she started running. And her position on Palestine, her position on the things that really matter to us, has been great. And we also have to recognize that she works within party lines, but pushes those lines to the extreme. We've seen MPs who stay within party lines and sometimes use it as a cover. That did not really pay off for them in the long run. But someone like Ariel, for example, her position has always been great in terms of her support for the Palestinian cause, her calling for a two-state solution, her focusing on the issue of refugees. She was actually one of the first people that called for a ceasefire from the Liberal Party when everything broke out in October. Then there was the issue of who is she running against, and I mean, it goes without saying that the language that's used by other parties um, is not really helpful for our community. We've seen other parties talk about the issue regarding the students, free speech, issues regarding the ICJ and the ICC, and that they're illegitimate, things related to UNRWA and the refugees.
So just to clarify here, are you're talking about from the right side? You're talking about from the conservatives right now, or
Yes, yeah,
okay?
yeah. We've seen all of that, and we tried talking with the Conservative Party and saying, listen, like, we do want to have an alternative to the Liberal Party, um, and that was during the kind of the leadership of Justin Trudeau. We tried multiple times to talk to the Conservatives and say, listen, like, these are the things that are important to the community. We want you to fix your position. No one is telling them to, come all the way to the NDP. Just meet us where the Liberals are. We tried multiple times, and to be honest, they went further and further away from where we wanted them to be. And we've seen the language that they have used. We've seen the MPs who ended up going on a trip to East Jerusalem, supplied by or paid for by lobbying groups. So for us, there is no reason possible that we can go for a party that was worse than where we were at that point.
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying correctly, you're basically looking at the writing and you're saying, okay, Ariel Kayabaga, for example, is already in the role. She has a good relationship with the community previously.
Yeah.
But from what I'm understanding from you, you've tried engaging with the Conservative Party and they're basically off the table for these reasons.
Yeah, once like as soon as October 2023 kind of started developing, we tried reaching out to the Conservatives to basically build that bridge and say we need an alternative. We're if you are good for our community, we're ready to have those discussions.
Right. So some people will have a problem with that. Some people will have a problem with you engaging with the Conservative Party, for example, just off principle. So can you explain why you did that?
They should, like, Hikma at the end of the day is kind of an advocacy group, and when as I feel as a public affairs council, our role is to deliver our message to every single politician that is available in London. I think at that point we were nonpartisan, but I feel like as things developed, we became bipartisan or multi-partisan. And what that means is that we don't have loyalty to one party. We have loyalty to principles. We have loyalty to the people that support our community. And based on these principles, we wanted to present our community with alternatives. That doesn't mean we wanted to, for example, like when Ariel was doing amazing since October 2023. So our idea was we need to deliver the message to the Conservatives and to make sure that if we do end up with a Conservative government, our community's interests are represented, are taken into account, and are valued. So that's one thing. The other thing to it is that at that point our community was really angry with the Liberal Party, that we needed to make sure that, again, we keep that door open. Unfortunately, I mean, it's great that they did that because it delivered a very clear message to us that we're not interested in the Muslim vote whatsoever. We don't want to come to you. You guys can keep sending us the emails. You guys can keep calling. It doesn't matter to us. As a Conservative Party, we will continue delivering the messages that we see are effective.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. For example, like when in October 2023, we actually reached out to Karen Vecchio, who was the MP in kind of the southern part of London. And we spoke with her. We delivered the message that we needed to deliver. And she actually was the only member of the Conservative caucus to not vote against the NDP motion. So, the discussions that we have with other parties, it's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as we deliver the message of the community and we deliver the priorities of the community, we leave the door open and we provide the community with representation where it matters, right?
Right.
So that was back then. Right now, our idea was Ariel is a minister. She has a good relationship with the community. She has a good relationship with the prime minister. And for us, again, we value principles, and we believe that Ariel has principles, and we decided to endorse her.
Okay. So if I'm living in London West, which I do, my options are basically now, if I've taken Adam Benny off the list of my checklist in terms of where I want to be, I'm left with Ariel and Sinead Alder. So Sinead Alder is running under the an NDP. She has been I don't know if endorsed is the right word, but she's on the Vote Palestine list, whereas Ariel is not. She's new, which obviously Ariel is not. I'm just stating the facts now, so people can make a decision based on the information they hear. So why not Sinead over Ariel?
I mean, if you look at the current polling nationally, the Liberals are doing well. And we went riding by riding to see where the vote might be split. And in the case of London West, if our community, again, when we do this analysis, we actually look at the number of community members who live in that riding, who are able to vote, and that have voted in the previous election.
Okay, so there's some research and some data behind it.
Exactly. So we look at those numbers, and then we kind of calculate what's the number that's needed by our community members to swing the vote. And we realize that in that riding, we are a swing riding, and we are a swing community. So we can move essentially, like our community alone, if they vote, we can either get a conservative, a liberal, and if we have enough influence, we can possibly get an NDP. However, because the Conservatives and the Liberals are really close in terms of where they are right now in that riding, we thought the best decision for us is to make sure that we don't split the vote, and we endorse the principled candidate who has the highest chance of winning.
Got it. Okay.
And Sinead has been great in terms of her CV. She was the president of a union. She's a member of the NDP. Many community members have had interactions with her. For us, we just need to do what's best for our community. And again, if people have specific political leanings, of course they're welcome to do that. But for us, based on our analysis and our recommendation, we do think that Ariel has the best chance of winning, and she provides the most principled approach between kind of two different sides.
I understand. Okay. And so how do we get Ariel to get on that Vote Palestine list? Because I looked at the list, and I think she has already called for everything. I just don't think she's officially on there.
It's through different organizations, and we are in discussions with her to kind of roll out the endorsement, possibly.
Yeah. Well, Ariel, if you're watching this, let's go. What are we waiting for?
From Hikma's perspective, we endorsed her because, again, as you said, she did meet all of those requirements, even without us sending her anything. She was the first one to call for a ceasefire, or one of the first to call for a ceasefire. She, had discussions with UNRWA back in October and November of 2023. She went to DC to speak to politicians from the U.S. side, and Palestine was one of the topics. So for us, again, all of that was met very early on.
Okay. Let's move to London North. London North is
London Center.
London Center. See, I'm already mixing them up. So previously it was London North Center?
Yeah.
Now it's just London Center.
London Center.
Okay, and the north part is what's gone from that name and from their district as well.
Basically.
Okay, so this is the riding, if you're familiar with it. This is where currently the MP there is Peter Fragiskatos.
Yeah.
And hopefully after this election, he will not be the MP there. That's my recommendation. I'll let you say yours. But what is Hikma's official recommendation in that writing?
Hegman's recommendation is to vote for Dirk Prout, the NDP candidate in that writing. Um, for us, the choice is very clear. Again, we heard directly from community members about the Conservatives. We tried building a bridge with the Conservatives. Unfortunately, that was not the case. We weren't able to do it, and we were left with no choice but to endorse other candidates. Um, and then we kind of started looking at the current MP in that writing, which is Peter, and we recognized that the community members felt ignored by him, to the point that some of them actually feel that he's not representing that writing and he's representing himself only. We've seen how Peter has actually went against government policies on some things. So, for example, calling for a ceasefire. Canada's position is that it will, it's a power that it's a middle power, but it can still respect international law, etc. The issue with Peter is that he always stuck to the party lines and did not even, or was not even willing to listen to community members. So when community members went to him and asked him for a statement to call for a ceasefire, he started telling the community members that they're not, as fluent as he is on the region.
You're speaking to the crowd.
Exactly.
If anybody's been following any of the stuff that I've been doing over the last year and a half, you'll know that I've sent this man I want to say almost 100 emails probably. I've called his office. For some reason, he's just not willing to listen to any of his constituents.
Exactly, and the issue here is not that he's not willing to change his position, because he can always shield himself with the party's position. I feel it's the least courageous thing that anyone can do, is shield themselves with the party's position. But the issue that we saw is that he's not willing to listen to community members.
Yeah.
And he's actually telling the community members how to feel. So to say that, I'm an expert on this region and you studied something completely different.
You got to go back and read that letter, man.
Exactly.
I remember that letter he posted where he was talking about his, what is it? He wrote an essay or something on Kurdish studies.
His thesis, which is under an embargo. So release it, Peter.
Yeah. It's, this is a writing to me where this is a no-brainer. And this is my opinion. It's not Hikma's opinion, obviously. I'll let you talk about Hikma's opinion. To me, this is a no-brainer. I think Peter has to go, and I think for us as a community, it would be shameful if we went into this election and did not put up a very big fight against Peter in his bid for re-election. And the reason I say that is, if he is still an MP after this election, and if we did not put up a serious fight against him, it sends a clear message to the Liberal Party and the people in it and people like Peter that you can totally ignore our community and there's no repercussions for that. And I think we can't let that happen.
Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly why we endorse Dirka, is that we reach out to Peter multiple times as a community. Some of us at Hikma used their connections to try to reach out to him. The door was closed. And for us, there was no point in doing all of that. We saw the position of the Prime Minister, which even under Trudeau, it changed a little bit when he went from, almost pronouncing ceasefire,
I remember that,
to changing the position at the UN, the voting pattern, the statements that were being sent out, the fact that we managed to block arms shipments. So all of that did change, but Peter wasn't willing to listen. And our issue is that we need a representative who's willing to listen to the community. We don't care if they're willing to change their mind or not. That's not our position. All they have to do, their job as a member of parliament and as a representative, to represent the community. And when they get certain messages, they're supposed to take those messages and take it to the party.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue with
exactly.
That, is that
and he's confusing the two roles. Yeah. He's confusing his role as a member of the party versus a representative of the community.
Yep.
And as a member of the party, he's coming to us to explain the party's position. And that's not his, I really don't think that's his role. His role is to take our comments and concerns and views and the things that really matter to us and take it back to the party, because that's who he's representing. That's who's, that we as a community, we are paying his salary through our taxes, through, just our day-to-day lives. His salary is being paid by his constituents. So we do think that his constituents should be able to at least be heard. So
Absolutely.
for us, it was a very easy choice.
Right. And honestly, I don't think I don't think I mean, you can talk to me a little bit of your decision making. I don't think an endorsement of Durka is just by default. I think Durka actually has some great qualities that would make her a good MP as well. Like I've interacted with her directly myself.
Yeah.
I've seen her at many, whether it's protests or events and community events and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's always been very pleasant. She's always had a very strong attitude towards this issue, and I think she's generally positive.
Exactly. And we have great allies in the NDP. Sometimes they're not perfect. I'm talking across the country, but they're willing to listen. They're willing to change. They represent the views of the community. And I'm talking at the federal level.
Yeah.
Provincially, that's a completely different story. So
yeah. We'll have somebody come talk about the provincial issues. Okay, so let's go then to London, Middlesex, London? No,
London Fanshawe.
London Fanshawe. Sorry, this one always confuses me. This is the one where Lindsay is the current MP.
Lindsay is the current,
and Lindsay is also the Hikma recommendation to continue.
Yeah. So for us, also that was a very, very simple choice. Just because we're happier with the Liberals as a community doesn't mean that we forgot everything. We're voting based on principle. And in the ridings where we split the vote, whether we vote for NDP or Liberal, and risk having another party come in and actually be rewarded for that, we vote for the candidate who's actually in the lead. And in our recommendation, and Ariel has been principled, all of that. So that's why we endorse Ariel in London West. If you look at this riding, you'll see that it's a three-way race between Conservatives, Liberal, and NDP. However, Lindsay is the current MP. Mm-hmm. She has been a great ally to the community. She went to Palestine and Jordan during the past year. She maintained very close contact with community members. She always called Hikma and other community groups to see how she can best represent the community. This is, again, if you look at it, that's the complete opposite end of where Peter is. Mm-hmm. Peter only wanted to represent the party. Lindsay wanted to represent the community, right? So we think that as an MP, she's doing the right thing by asking the community for, what their priorities are, what they value, what they don't value, etc. So there was that. The other part of it is that when we had Londoners trapped in Gaza and were not able to be evacuated, and the government at that point abandoned them, Lindsay was actually the first one, and they didn't live in her riding. I picked up the phone and called Lindsay, and within a couple of days, the files started moving, and they were evacuated along with their families, and that would be the Kulta family. So for us, she has always went above and beyond. Her mother, who was an MP in that riding also, was a strong supporter of Palestine. Lindsay is a strong supporter of Palestine, of the Muslim community, is willing to take criticism whenever there was a need for it. And she has always worked to improve the party's position by representing what the community wants, and being a voice for the community, essentially. So for us, it was a very easy choice. Why we didn't endorse the Liberal, we didn't feel that there is a value in rewarding the Liberals in that riding. We have principles as a community. The people that stick by us, we stick by them. And Lindsay has stuck by us. We don't see any value in voting for the Liberals when, again, we don't think that we should be rewarding them for being mediocre. It's the fact that the polling is in favor of the Liberals now. No one expected that, but that doesn't mean we should also contribute to that. Let's be principled, and for us, that was the principled approach.
Okay, and so some people might take issue with that specifically because the Liberal candidate in London Fanshawe is Muslim, and they may raise that as saying, why aren't we supporting the Muslim candidate?
I mean, look, like we weren't approached by him or
Mhm.
his campaign. Um, he might be a great person. We just weren't approached by his campaign, though. So that's number one. Number two, um, I mean, allyship means being or speaking up, and we've seen that the minister who actually cut the funding to UNRWA
Mhm.
was the Muslim minister,
Yeah.
and he was the Minister of International Development. So for us, it just like regardless, we need someone who's willing to speak up and challenge the position of the party. Ariel did, and that's again, she was actually rewarded for being a strong candidate that she became a minister. She represented the community really, really well,
Mhm.
and she knew that might affect her her role, her belonging in the party, etc. But at the end of the day, she was rewarded for being a genuine politician. For us, we also do think that Lindsay is a genuine politician and genuine ally. And the fact that there is a candidate who's Muslim, for us, that doesn't really change the equation, because it was the Muslim minister who cut off the funding to UNRWA. It was Muslim MPs who sometimes failed to call, for a ceasefire early
Yeah, well,
on.
like the
So
Minister of Transportation at the time, Omar Al Ghabra, was one of the ones responsible for a drone contract that was being canceled. Like it's
exactly, and Ahmed Hassan is was the Minister of International Development. Cut the funding to UNRWA the moment Israel called and said, "Well, cut the funding."
yeah,
So for us, we move based on principles and what we think is best, rather than just emotions and
yeah.
going off of
I mean, there's a saying. I mean, you saw it in the U.S., right, where there was a saying that black faces in high places won't help us.
that.
This
I
is
mean,
this is the same this is
yeah,
the same thing as what we saw in the
yeah,
U.S. So to me, I wanted to address the point because I know people had that question.
yeah,
But I agree with you in that sense that no, you're not just going to get the nomination based on the fact that you're Muslim. You're going to get the nomination based on can you win. Have you shown have you shown yourself to the community? Do we know who you are? Do you
yeah.
have a principled stance that we can look to for experience? And I think those are the right criteria to look at.
100%. And again, like it's even if there's a liberal government, it makes sense for us to have kind of an opposition voice,
Mm.
or a different voice than just the liberals, because we do want to change in the voices. We need someone who's able to represent the community rather than just to represent the party. And we can't give London away on a silver platter to the governing party, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, that makes sense. I think part of the conversation, I think it's important, and hopefully whoever's listening to this has realized this. There's a lot of nuance to these decisions. It's not so black and white
yeah,
as
yeah,
to say we're only endorsing NDP candidates or only endorsing liberal candidates.
yeah, yeah,
There is nuance here, and there's details that you need to understand, and that is why you have organizations like Hikma, like CM PAC, like NCCM, who are helping people make these informed decisions.
yeah.
At the end of the day, only you can control your vote when you enter the ballot box, and
These
ultimately
are
it's your decision. But it's
recommendations.
recommendations,
It's
right?
recommendations, and it's the same thing with the provincial elections. I mean, we went based on what we thought was best, and that is we had discussions related to passing our London Family Act. We had discussions related to the rights of children in schools, and all of that. And we had that conversation with different parties, and one of them was the Conservatives, and we
Mhm.
actually endorsed a Conservative candidate, or actually two Conservative candidate. Um, and we also had issues with how the NDP treated Sarah Jama, right?
Yeah.
So all of that combined, we're not going for one party. We're going for what we think is best for the community. And everyone can go into the ballot area and just vote for whoever they want. And our recommendation is a recommendation, but we do it based on principles.
Okay. So there's two more ridings in London. I know you haven't issued endorsements yet for them,
Yeah,
but a
yeah,
lot of people are waiting for them.
yeah.
They are coming, right? and that is the new London North. So basically, call it if you're north of Fanshawe Park Road,
Yeah.
and then Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Yes, it's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. This is where Karen Vecchio was the MP. This is if you live in like Talbot Village, for example.
Yeah.
If you live south, I think of like White Oaks Road in some areas, but not in others.
The writings changed a little bit.
They changed a little bit. But generally, if you live in the very southern part of London, this would be your riding.
Yeah.
Let's start there because there's one candidate in particular that we're trying to avoid. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll let you talk about the recommendation.
Yeah. So the person who's running in that riding is Andrew Lawton. He's a conservative. He has spread Islamophobic stuff for as long as we remember. And it's, to be honest, not just Islamophobia. The guy was spreading anti-Semitic stuff. Couple of years ago, he actually went out and said that students should, just so it doesn't get taken out of context. Andrew Lawton said that fully, but he actually went on the news and said, let students debate whether the Holocaust took place. So he's spreading anti-Semitic stuff. He's spreading Islamophobic stuff publicly in social media. He was actually dropped as a provincial conservative candidate because he was too far right for Doug Ford.
Yeah, and then just for the sake of time, we'll say like, long story short,
avoid. We're going to be releasing endorsements very soon. We are in discussions with the candidates, and we're going to be releasing endorsement very soon. And you can find everything on hikma.ca/elections 2025.
Okay, beautiful. And then so let's move to then London North.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sneak preview of London North and what people can expect?
Also, we're still in discussions with the candidates, and it's the same thing. The Conservative MP who's there has been outspoken about her support for Israel, which kind of goes against the whole Canada First thing. Probably Canada
Not
Second,
surprising,
apparently. But for us, we're still in discussions, and we're trying to see who the best candidate is that we can endorse based on the polling, based on our principles, based on discussions with them, and then we'll see what's the best thing that we can do for the community.
Yeah. So Hikma needs people right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you've put out a request for volunteers.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we need volunteers, to register people at the masajid, at the grocery stores, whatever it is. We'll try to find a place and a plan for where to deploy these volunteers. We need to put volunteers with campaigns. As I said, Ariel is in a swing riding. Lindsay is in a swing riding. Durka is in a riding that should be flipped. We have a conservative member or a conservative candidate that should be avoided at all costs. So we have 4 ridings in play. The 5th one, we can try to see what we can do. But we need volunteers across all campaigns.
And where can people go to sign up to be a volunteer?
Correct me, and you can post the link for it, but I think it's hikma.ca/volunteer.
Got it. Okay. So Hikma's on social media. They're on Facebook. They're contactable through WhatsApp and that sort of thing as well. And so they need support. Not just Hikma, but like NCCM, CM PAC, all of these organizations that are working to get people out to vote need support. So if you're looking for some volunteering time, this is the time to do it. We don't have a lot of time, and so you need to start right away. And you must vote.
Vote. Listen,
all of these conversations are useless if you don't pick yourself up and take 15 minutes to go vote on the day of elections.
1,000,000%. And if you don't agree with any of the recommendations we made, that's fair. Go out and vote. Because not voting is worse than voting for the worst candidate. Because not voting means that you have a right, and Sheikh Adnan talks about that during his khutbahs. And if you look at the thing that we have here as a community, one thing that cannot be taken away from us is our right to vote. The moment that you give up that right, then you start a precedent where your rights to speak are taken away, your right to exist is taken away, your right to vote is taken away. So go out and vote. You can vote early, you can vote by mail, you can vote today, actually. Whatever you want to do, just go out and vote. Even if you don't agree with the recommendations, please just go out and vote. And that's like the only thing that we can do as a community right now. That's the only we I think we were talking since October 2023 that we need to change the reality that we're in. This is the only way that we can do it. We can send letters, we can send emails, we can call, we can donate, whatever. But just remember that the government that's formed on the 28th of April will end up being the government for the next 10 years. Because that's even if it's the liberals, usually the lifespan of a government is 10 years. So that's a brand new government. Expect them to be in power for 10 years, whether it's a conservative, whether it's a liberal, whether it's a minority. And this is what we're pushing for.
Mm-hmm. Jazakallah khair. This is really helpful. Hopefully this answers questions for some people. If you've got more questions, you can reach out. We'll do our best to answer them as well. We'll be following along as the election campaign goes on. And like Muhammad said, you got to vote because there's a lot of people out there in the world that do not have the right to vote. And I view it as a disrespect of the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a blessing, that He's put you in a place where you have the opportunity to decide who governs your country. And if for you to throw that away and not take advantage of it, at a time especially when our brothers and sisters in Gaza are being slaughtered en masse, and you have the opportunity to do something about it, and you don't do it, it's scary. I'm literally getting goosebumps saying it. It's very scary that you'll be asked one day about your right that you were given to try to affect change, and you don't take it.
And you can't use work as an excuse. You have there is legislation. Yeah. There are regulations that says if you work, you're an employer, you have to give your employees, so yourselves, you have to give the employees 3 hours to go on and vote. You don't need 3 hours. Literally, take those 3 hours, go and vote 15 minutes and take an up. No one is like literally, but like you are entitled to 3 hours fully. So use them.
Thank you for being here. It's very helpful to have this conversation, and I hope that people find benefit in it, inshallah. And I hope they actually go out and vote, and that we get to a place that is better than where we are today.
Inshallah. And that's the whole point. So.